Is killing evil? Most people would answer yes, without hesitation. But I wonder how they'd respond if I asked whenever they ever killed a mosquito. They'd probably say human life is sacred, but animal life, especially that of pesky mosquito, isn't. It's ironic, really. The sanctity of life, a conforming illusion crafted by humans to protect themselves. A construct that rarely considers the pests we exterminate for convenience or the animals we slaughter to satisfy hunger or gluttony. You won't find sanctity of life stickers in industrial slaughterhouses or on farmland sprayed with chemicals that wipe out innocent insects labeled as pests, just so we can grow vegetables. Directly or not, we kill to survive. We just don't like to talk about it. There is no escaping it. Humans are predators, rare omnivorous persistence hunters. Killing is in our nature. You don't need a history book to know that. We like to think we are wise, advanced, the pinnacle of evolution, top of the food chain. But that's not really true, is it? If humanity vanished tomorrow, Mother Nature wouldn't mourn. Not because she's cruel, she's just piteously indifferent. We'd be forgotten in moments. Just another failed mutation, another extinct species lost among the millions that died out long before us. A pitiful race that thought it stood above the natural order because of its tools and machines. Maybe that's why I see the Kroot of Warhammer 40k as far wiser than us. Wiser than humanity, both in the grimdark future, in the world we live in now. Because the Kroot, carnivores, hunters, savages, cannibals, somehow understand the universe and their place in it better than most. But before we get into it, remember to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, the whole shtick. You know what to do. If you can, support me on Patreon or donate money through Ko-fi to the art budget for the Star Wars x Warhammer 40k series. It's thanks to your donations that this series has its own art gallery. I also encourage you to join our growing Discord community. All links are in the video description. With that out of the way, let's begin. To understand the Kroot, it's worth to look at their creation myth and their goddess. Yes, the Kroot have both, though few know about them. I will tell you the abridged version. Since the dawn of cosmos, Vauk the Huntress wandered alone through the Nothing Sea, crafting her great plan. For countless eons she journeyed alone, until at last she met another god, Gmork the Destroyer. Delighted, Vauk offered him friendship. Gmork laughed at her idea and attacked. And so began the Battle of the Nothing Sea. Every blow they struck tore at reality, shaking the void, creating stars, then planets. Gmork was blind to the birth of the universe, but Vauk was wiser. She swooped and weaved, guiding Gmork's rage this way and that, shaping the heavens, all in accordance with her great plan. 12 times she pleaded with him to see reason. 12 times he refused, each time attacking with renewed fury. As the battle raged on, Vauk saw that Gmork would eventually destroy everything she sought to create. So, in a moment of divine fury, she plunged her beak into his neck. Blood filled her gullet. Repulsed, she spat it out, but one drop slipped down her throat. A great sickness overtook her, but along with it came Gmork's strength. Now empowered, she overwhelmed him. Gmork was defeated, banished to the far corners of a nothing sea, the places still untouched by light. Weakened by the poison in her veins, Vogue descended upon a world, the centerpiece of her great plan, the planet Pesh. She landed and spread her wings across the land. Her bones became mountains, her feathers the forests, and with a final breath, she vomited a great flock of eagles into the sky. Eagles that one day will be known as the Kroot. Fascinating story, wouldn't you say? One myth surrounded by many interpretations, both in and out of universe. Imperial researchers wonder if it reflects early interactions between the orcs and the Kroot. But for the Cape fans, they see something far more revealing. Take the Great Plan. That term is almost always associated with the Old Ones, suggesting the Kroot may be one of their final creations, which could explain their unique ability to mutate based on what they consume. And then there is Gmork, a name that clearly echoes the orc gods Gork and Mork. Some even believe that Vogue was responsible for splitting the original orc god into two aspects, a theory supported by the concept of Gorka Morka, seen in Warhammer Fantasy. Now, while those theories are fascinating and certainly worth exploring, I don't want to spend this video diving into this subject. Instead, I want to focus on the culture and faith of the Kroot. And one of the most striking things is this: the Kroot don't really pray to gods. Their goddess, Vogue, is dead. And unlike so many other mythologies, no new pantheon rose from her corpse. Vogue is a dead creator, the source of their existence, but not the guide to their morality or culture. The Kroot revere her memory, yes, and they try to mirror her wisdom, but she left them no sacred texts, no laws to live by. The Kroot had to figure it out for themselves. Their spiritual practices are more aligned with ancestor worship and deeply tied to their nature as hunters. As many of you already know, the Kroot possess a remarkable ability. They can absorb the DNA of the creatures they consume, mutating and evolving based on what they eat. But there is something even more intriguing. The Kroot can also glimpse the memories of what they consume. Yes, just like the Space Marines' omaphagia, the Kroot can extract knowledge from their prey. But while Space Marines use this ability for tactical advantage, for the Kroot, it's a spiritual experience. They believe the spirit and memory of their prey are bound together, and by consuming the flesh, they honor their prey and absorb its essence. Be it animal or intelligent being, to consume another fully for the Kroot is to welcome their spirit into oneself. This is the true meaning behind Kroot cannibalism. They eat their own kind not out of savagery, but to ensure the souls of their kind remain within the clan. Worthy enemies and noble beasts are also welcomed, their strength, memories and essence added to the collective. For the Kroot, ancestor worship is literal. They see and witness the memories of those who came before. They are not just hunters, they are living vessels of their tribe's history. They carry the spirits of their ancestors and of every creature they've consumed. That's why in cases when the flesh of a fallen Kroot is corrupted by poison, warp taint, or disease and can't be eaten by the tribe, they mourn. Because to them, that means a part of their kindred is lost forever. Suddenly, what looks like barbaric cannibalism becomes sacred tradition, a way to preserve culture, memory, and spiritual continuity. Another fascinating layer is how Kroot change, not just physically, but mentally and culturally based on what they eat. A kindred that's been fighting and feeding on orcs will become more aggressive, more savage. But a group that's dined on Eldar may become far more cunning, perceptive, and subtle. In one tale, after consuming a unit of Katachan jungle fighters, the Kroot began using imperial curse words and wearing red bandanas. So clearly, the Kroot don't just learn from their enemies. If an enemy is worthy, the Kroot will adopt part of their culture, their tactics, and even their personality traits. Which brings us to the ones responsible for guiding the Kroot and deciding what can and cannot be eaten. Shapers. Kroot who developed a special sense, a kind of instinctual insight. With a single glance, a shaper can determine the genetic value of a being. They serve as both chieftain and shaman, wielding the highest authority in a kindred. The shapers determine the tribe's path, what prey to hunt, what genes to avoid, and how their people will evolve. Though rarely mentioned, there are other important roles within the Kroot clan beyond the shapers. In Elemental Council, it's noted that female Kroot care for the young, teaching them the tales of their ancestors, old hunts, and the enemies they may one day face. They pass down knowledge of prey and taboo, what is worthy to hunt, and what must be avoided. From what I've gathered, status among the Kroot is determined not by wealth or power, but by the diversity of genes a Kroot has absorbed. Those who consume a wide array of genetic material, warriors who tasted many worlds, rise in status. The so-called Master Shapers reach such level of reverence that they are nearly worshipped. And honestly, if a Kroot carries the genetic legacy of an entire city's worth of life forms, it's not surprised they are held in awe. Yet, fundamentally, the Kroot value the tribe over the self. No matter how powerful a Kroot becomes, they know that one day they will die or grow too old to hunt. And when that day comes, they will be consumed, their essence returning to the kindred. It's a cycle. The old die and are consumed so that young can grow strong from their flesh and become wiser thanks to their memories. Ironically, perhaps this very mindset is why the Kroot and the Tau work so well together. Despite their differences, one a savage hunter species, the other a technologically advanced empire, at their core, both value the collective over the individual, and both hold deep respect for those in position of guidance and leadership. Another fascinating detail, often overlooked, is the technological knowledge of a Kroot. Many assume they are primitive, But this isn't entirely true. In fact, before the Tau ever found them, the Kroot already had interstellar colonies, and their ships were capable of engaging Orc forces in orbital battles. At one point, the Kroot were a highly advanced species, but they made a deliberate choice. They saw how technology threatened their connection to nature, how it interfered with their sacred cycle of a hunt. So they chose to abandon high technology in daily life, preserving only what was essential for survival and off-world travel, all in order to continuously grow stronger and evolve in face of adversity. Yet, despite their tribal, low-tech lifestyle, the Kroot possess their own warships, massive vessels known as war spheres. These behemoths can span up to 8 kilometers in diameter, equipped with engines powerful enough to land on a planet's surface and lift off again under their own power, an engineering feat few of our species can match. Each war sphere is more than just a ship. It's a city that can become a heart of a new colony the moment it touches down, or be sent back into the void once new heart is established. But how Kroot can create such magnificent vessels? Apparently, hidden deep within the mountains of Pesh and on several Kroot colonies are vast industrial complexes. How the Kroot maintain the knowledge to construct these ships remains something of a mystery. Some speculate that secret kindreds, isolated and cloistered, exist solely to keep the ancient machinery running, passing the secrets of industry from one generation to the next. Others believe the Kroot, through consuming orcs, absorbed their instinctive grasp of technology, much like the Meg Boys, who are born with an unconscious understanding of mechanical construction. The truth? It could be either or both. What we do know is this: the Kroot are fully capable of constructing warp-capable vessels equipped with Galar fields necessary for safe interstellar travel. And they travel a lot. In fact, the Kroot live a semi-nomadic lifestyle. They are one of the most widespread species in the galaxy. Kroot mercenaries can be found in every corner of the galaxy and even beyond its borders. They are known to have discovered one of the Black Stone fortresses, ancient, dormant structure floating in extragalactic void beyond Segmentum Pacificus, before the High Lords of Terra even knew it existed. It's never clearly explained how, but the Kroot seem to possess a natural affinity for warp navigation. They can travel through the warp without the use of traditional navigators, which suggests a sensitivity to the immaterium that is far beyond what most would expect from a species so often dismissed as primitive. But you may be wondering, why do the Kroot travel so far from their homeworld? It all ties back to the Kroot's identity as hunters. To the Kroot, consuming the creature isn't just about sustenance. It's about absorbing its essence, its strength, its instinct, its memory. That's why they actively seek out powerful and dangerous foes so that their strength can be added to the kindred. This belief even leads to them to mock the concept of husbandry so common among humans. While rise docile, domesticated prey, what hope do humans have of growing strong if they dilute their essence by feeding on the weak? This is why the Kroot traverse the stars, not to earn riches, weapons, or resources, but to earn meat. Not just any meat, but the kind that fights back. Unlike most predators, who instinctively seek out the weak and wounded, the Kroot do the opposite. They intentionally seek strong, dangerous prey because only worthy kills can strengthen the kindred. But don't mistake this for fearlessness. Far from it. Many Kroot in the lore openly express fear when facing deadly enemies. They are afraid, but they do not let that fear rule them, because they understand the truth of the universe. Only those who face challenge grow stronger. To hunt the weak is to weaken yourself. There is something undeniably poetic, even heroic, in the Kroot's way of a hunt. They take risks, face death, and confront impossible odds to prove themselves to their ancestors and to pass their strength onto their descendants. In some art, Kroot warriors are depicted towering above space marines, their diet having shaped them into hulking, powerful apex predators capable of standing toe-to-toe with Emperor's angels. And yet, for all their savagery, the Kroot are not mindless killers. They are preservers. Some creatures are tamed, trained to fight alongside the kindred, or used to create new strains of beast-like Kroot. Others are deliberately spared in the hope that over time they will evolve new valuable traits that could be added to the Kroot. It's ironic, isn't it? The Kroot, brutal carnivores, cannibals feared across the stars, are at their core preservers of life. That's what nature does. It seeks balance between the life and death, between prey and predator, and the Kroot understand that truth of the universe more than most. As I mentioned earlier, the Kroot do not eat everything they come across. And it's not just out of pragmatism, avoiding weak prey or preserving rare species for future hunts. In the grim dark future of the Milky Way, there are creatures so vile, so warped by unnatural forces that to consume their essence would doom the kindred. The Kroot can eat them, but they choose not to, because the consequences are devastating. They have learned through bitter experience that certain flesh is forbidden. Chaos-tainted creatures corrupt not only Kroot genome, but their very spirit. Entire clans can be lost to that taint. Tyrannid flesh, if consumed, doesn't enhance, it enslaves. Kroot who consume it risk falling under the control of a hive mind. And as for the Necrons, their so-called living metal, when ingested, transforms into a swarm of micro-machines, eating the Kroot from inside out. The flesh of the fallen is tainted, and all who try to return their spirit to the kindred will meet similar fate. Their spirits lost to the Kroot. These are not just physical dangers. They are spiritual threats, existential risks to the collective soul of a Kroot species. And so, eating those kinds of creatures is taboo. The Tau are on that list as well, not because of some corrupting influence of their meat, but because Tau saved the Kroot from extinction, which pushed the Kroot to respect Tau traditions to the point of not consuming the flesh of their saviors. But let's say the kindred that travelled far outside of Pesh returns after decades of mercenary work and countless hunts. What happens to them? Well, at least one source speaks that part of a clan, if not all of them, are ritually sacrificed, so that genetic material they've gathered through the decades could be spread out through the Kroot population. It is noted that many Kroot offer themselves willingly to this ritual, to become one with the ancestors and the Kroot species as the whole. It may sound barbaric to outsiders, but to the Kroot, this is honor, to become one with the ancestors, to feed your strength into the future. This is the ultimate purpose of the hunt. Absolutely fascinating. It reveals something profound about the Kroot. They're mercenaries, the ones who see fighting across the stars. They don't fight for themselves. They fight for the Kroot as a whole. Every battle, every risk, every victory is for the species, for the kindred, for the future. And in truth, we see yet another reason why the Kroot and the Tau work so well together. From what I observed, neither species really experiences existential dread regarding their death. Tau live short lives but aren't desperate to extend them, like the humans do. The Kroot know they will die sooner or later because of the nature of the hunt. They of course experience fear of death in combat. They aren't fearless, but they don't fear what they consider natural death. And it is because of how much importance is put on the collective. An individual can die, but the clan, the kindred, the empire endures. I would like to finish this video with an excerpt from my favorite Tau book, The Elemental Council by Noah van Nguyen, who presented amazing example of wisdom from a Kroot. The scene is that the Kroot carnivore, God, a mere hunter, not a shaper, faces against Space Marine of Raptor's Space Marine chapter. As they face one another, this Kroot, who was born in a war sphere far away from the Tau Empire, who never really understood the idea of a greater good, has an epiphany. God glanced at the carcasses carpeting the floor. The venom of Artramach's hatred seemed to pollute them. Before returning to Tau space, the distinction between the Imperium and the Empire had always seemed fuzzy. A swirling mist of entangled concepts. The ineffable greater good, forever described in metaphor, had lain beyond the grasp of God's claws, cloaked in the same abstractions that mantled the Imperium's church. But it was real. God could hardly believe it, but hearing the poison in Artramach's words, he felt the truth in his bones. Balance existed in the universe, a balance of life and death, of dark and light, of predator and prey. For an entity such as Artramach's to be so driven by hatred, a corresponding force must exist. In that moment, suffocating in Artramach's hatred, God sensed the balance in the empire of Tau. Artramach's bleak eyes gleamed with insight. You adore them. God straightened.
No, I think they are right. Your Imperium rots, sick like an old thing, diseased like a leper. They move like light across the stars, drifting in void for centuries, millennia, eons. Still, the light comes. When it falls on your haunted Imperium, thank your dead Emperor. They will be more merciful than you were to them. Their patience will outlast your hatred.
I think this piece of text shows true wisdom of the Kroot, their understanding of balance and the need for it in the universe. For all their savagery and barbaric practices, Kroot have one thing that so many other species in the 40k lack: wisdom. They are hunters, not conquerors. They have no desire to dominate the galaxy. Quite the opposite. They welcome its diversity. They welcome the adversity and challenge. And most importantly, they accept change. As primitive as they might look, the Kroot aren't stagnant. They continue to grow, to evolve, and grow wiser and wiser. With each hunt, each new gene added, each great expedition returning with tales of their travels, they grow wiser and wiser. For there is wisdom in knowing your own nature and your place in the universe. There is wisdom in controlling your ambition and preservation of life. There is wisdom in placing many above the few. There is wisdom in being a simple hunter and nothing more. That's the Kroot, my dear viewers and listeners. The savage sages, the humble hunters, the spiritual cannibals of the Milky Way galaxy. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, the whole shtick. You know what to do. If you can, support me through Patreon or donate money to the art budget on Ko-fi. I also invite you to join my Discord server. All links in the description below. I believe that's it for today. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed. Now, my dear viewers and listeners, remember, in the grim darkness of a far future, the chicken eats you. I wish you most heretical day. Ta-ta!